my thighs can move the world. All right, so some quick turbo thoughts on weightlifting. Right, so random thought to my mom, like, man, I'm like obsessed with the gym. I love going to the gym. It's like my passion. It's kind of interesting because I think that in modern day life there is no more like arena or coliseum or open air gymnasium like they had back in the ancient times of Greece. So it's actually interesting because if you actually do some research, so actually a good book that I actually found really good was the book called Lift by Daniel Kunitz, and it kind of outlines a pretty good history of just like weightlifting, physical culture, etc. And one of the things I gleaned from the book was back in ancient Greek times, gymnasium, gymnos, it actually meant naked. So the gymnosophists were a bunch of wise men from India who were just naked and would just say rando stuff. Imagine like a modern day yogi, I suppose. And men would go to the open air gymnasium. Imagine like a huge open air like dirt place, and then, you know, imagine there's a bunch of rocks and dumbbells and heavy stuff to people throw around and do physical activities. What was very interesting was actually back in the day, the gymnasium was also a place not only of you know, physical culture, but a social life of you know, there's a place where people would philosophize, be philosophers. There would also be a section where I think there was like even theaters and plays. And so in modern day life, because we no longer really live in a martial society where men are trained in hand-to-hand combat, there's like no like super pragmatic purpose of like physicality and physical strength. I mean, if you're a nerd on a keyboard, you could send emails for a living and still make, you know, I don't know, $500,000 a year or whatever. So, and it's funny too, because like the gym, it's kind of seen nowadays as like a superfluous luxury where only like, you know, quote unquote gym rats or, you know, people with nothing better to do go to the gym all the time. But actually on the contrary, I find the gym to be one of the most fun, vibrant, honest places. Also, the gym is very democratic, assuming you don't go to an Equinox or something like that. Is, you know, anyone could afford a gym membership, especially if you just go to like a, you know, just like a standard commercial gym. And so then the upside and the benefit is you get to meet people from different social classes, from different walks of life, different ages. It's so funny too, because like, you know, you kind of make new friends, you kind of recognize the same dudes, give them fist bumps, get to know the staff and stuff like that. So it's kind of a regular place where you could kind of like, I almost see the gym as the modern day arena. And a fun challenge for us nowadays then is, when you go to the gym, you have an opportunity to test and also exhibit your strength. So I just did, for the first time, like a dumbbell, heavy dumbbell deadlift with 150 pounders, which is the biggest ones in the commercial gym. You just take them up on the ground and then chalk up the weights and chalk up your hands and see if you can do it. And actually I find it to be an interesting exercise because the hardest part about it is actually a grip strength thing. So, you know, if your gym has it, right, just try it. Like, take off the 150-pound dumbbell, put it on the ground, and just see if you could lift it up with your left hand without the aid of straps. Just use chalk. And ever since I've been doing insanely heavy rack pulls, I think I pulled 625 pounds the other day, which is like 6 plates and 2 10s on each side. And you know, I just been using chalk mixed grip, and it's my pragmatic thought that grip strength is strength. A lot of guys who are bodybuilders or powerlifters, whatever, they use the lifting straps, which, you know, undoubtedly I think it works. I mean, you could, for most guys, their grip strength gives out before their you know, arm or leg or shoulder strength, I suppose. But the downside of using straps is, by using straps, you don't really give your hands a chance to build its grip strength. And as a consequence, your ultimate strength, I think, is actually diminished. And even something that I realized in terms of getting super swole, dude, my veins are like insane. Like my veins are out of control. Like I was rewatching the video of me rack pulling 625 pounds. At first I thought I actually didn't budget, but I watched the GoPro video I shot of it. Actually, I did get it up half an inch, and at maximum exertion, my veins are just like popping full of blood. It's kind of like insanity, right? And for the record, I don't do I don't do the juice. I don't do no weird testosterone boost. I don't even take protein powder or creatine, nothing like that. All I do is eat beef ribs from Costco Business Center, drink black coffee, and that's pretty much it. And also I do intermittent fasting, no breakfast, no lunch, just one massive dinner a day, and I'm still able to get the gains. And also the funny thing too is like, okay, so you know this whole thing's like, oh, what's your body type? You're mesomorph, ectomorph, blah 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 blah. And honestly, it's like, it's totally pseudoscience. I'm like, that's ridiculous. That's just like a new form of racism, like the body racism. And then a lot of guys talk themselves down. They're like, oh, I'm a mesomorph, so I can't get super duper swole. And I think it tends to be a bad line of thinking. On the contrary, yeah, just like, I mean, certainly genetics exists, right? But I just prefer to think genetics ain't real. Just ignore genetics. I mean, of course genetics exist, but just like, you know, because then like the reason people, you know, genetics is, you know, bad is that people like have this self-racism, right? This like, you know, I wasn't born African-American, thus I cannot get super swole like Ronnie Coleman. And I'm like, yeah, you do realize the dude's like freaking juicing out his eyeballs until he essentially like, you know, became a cripple, right? You know, and I think also the reason why you probably don't see more mainstream Asian bodybuilders is not a genetics thing. I think Asian people don't really have a history of like physical culture or, you know, sports, or, and I think maybe, I don't know if this is just, you know, me theorizing, but maybe less prone to being interested in doing testosterone or all these other weird body boosting things and stuff like that. So I think what's important to consider is, you know, let's just assume that genetics don't exist, even though it does, right? And yeah, and I think the funny thing is with weightlifting, powerlifting, stuff like that, is that I just kind of treat it and approach it kind of more of like a fun exercise. I treat it like a Zen meditation, and I would say, like, this is just like a new innovation, is like, don't sequester yourself into any like single camp. Don't be like, I'm a power lifter, so I could only lift like this, or I'm a, you know, gymnast, I can only do this, like calisthenics, whatever. Like, do it all. Like, do muscle ups, do planches, do yoga, you know, hype yourself up, do powerlifting, go to the free weight section, do some like you know, bodybuilding stuff, and I think this is the best way to become the uber bodybuilder.